Most men don't realize the truth until it's too late. The moment they begin to chase her, they start losing themselves. Not because she's malicious or heartless, but because the game was never about love. It was always about power. Subtle shift happens the second she senses that your peace, your confidence, your validation is now dependent on her response. And once she feels that control, she pulls back not to hurt you, but to see if you'll chase. That's where most men go wrong. Overthink. They replay every conversation, wondering what went wrong. They start explaining themselves, justifying every action, trying to fix something that was never broken on their side. They sacrifice their dignity, piece by piece, just to bring back the feeling they once had. But you're done with that. You're not chasing anymore. You're not trying to decode silence or convince someone to see your worth. You've reached the point where you understand that your peace is too expensive to be negotiated. You're not reacting out of emotion anymore. You're moving with discipline. She might be waiting for that familiar question, "What's wrong?" But it won't come. You already know that asking gives her power. She knows what she's doing. She knows the silence, the shift in tone, the distance, it's all calculated. She's hoping you don't notice, but now you do. You see clearly, you're not here for emotional games. If she's pulling away, let her. If she's sending mixed signals, you don't decode them. You stand in clarity while she floats in confusion. You are no longer the man who begs for closure, you create it. You decide. And if walking away is what brings you back to yourself, then that is exactly the step you take with your head high and your peace intact. Your silence is not. Emptiness is power. She's used to men breaking the moment tension rises. Used. 2 late-night texts, long paragraphs begging for another chance, constant attempts to make things right. That's the pattern she expects. But when you choose silence not out of spite, but out of discipline, it confuses her. Suddenly she's no longer in control. She can't bait you with distance. Can't manipulate your energy with a few vague words or cold replies. You've become a mirror she can't read, and that makes her uncomfortable. She wants to see if she still matters to you. She sends little signals, tests your resolve, posts just enough to trigger emotion. But you don't bite. You stay still. You stay composed. And in doing so, your silence speaks louder than anything you could say. It draws a line she can't cross. A line that tells her, this is no longer a game. You're not playing by her rules. You've taken back your focus, your attention, your presence. And that boundary made not of words, but of calm distance, tells her she no longer has the power to shake you. You are no longer available to be emotionally toyed with. Stillness becomes strength. She begins to wonder why you haven't reached out, why your energy has disappeared, why the man who once reacted to everything now responds to nothing. And in that space, you become unforgettable. Not because you chased her, but because you didn't. Not because you raised your voice, but because you withdrew it. Silence, when chosen with intention, becomes a message no one can ignore. It shows her that you're not here to be manipulated. You're here to be respected. And the more she reaches and hears nothing, the more your absence starts to echo. In her world, stop explaining yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. That urge to justify your actions, to prove that you're a good man, a loyal man, a worthy man, comes from a place of fear. Fear that you won't be seen. Fear that you'll be forgotten. Fear that silence means erasure. But here's the truth. The people who truly care don't need an explanation. They feel your energy, they know your heart, and they never make you beg to be understood. The moment you feel yourself wanting to explain why you deserve better, pause. Because the second you try to sell your worth, you make it negotiable. You lower it. A man who knows who he is doesn't try to convince anyone. He just shows up fully. And if someone can't see that, he walks away without looking back. You don't need her to validate your goodness. You don't need to remind her of everything you did right. It's not your job anymore. Your job is to stand firm in your value even when it goes unnoticed. Especially then. She may not realize what she had until it's gone. But by then it won't matter, because you'll have already evolved past needing her to notice. have already found peace in your own presence? That's the shift. You no longer argue with confusion. You no longer explain your heart to someone who keeps dropping it. Instead, you fall silent. You disappear from the role she wrote for you, and you start writing your own story. If she comes back and finally sees your worth, that's her awakening. But if she doesn't, that's still your freedom, because your value was never hers too. Determine, it was always yours to protect. She made you feel like you were just one of many, like your presence was optional, your effort forgettable, your love replaceable. And for a while, you accepted that. You waited for her to see the difference, to appreciate the consistency, to realize you were never like the others. Now, that part of Yutha, one that waited, explained, hoped, is gone. You're not standing in the background anymore, hoping to be chosen. You're choosing yourself. You're no longer tolerating being treated as a convenience. You're the standard now, not the exception waiting to be noticed. You don't ask to be prioritized. You become someone who cannot be ignored. You stop showing up for people who can't meet you where you are. She's expecting the old version of you, the one who always texted first, made excuses for her coldness, who stuck around even when it hurt. But that version of you evolved. Now, your distance speaks volumes. Not out of anger, but out of respect. When she looks for you in the old ways and doesn't find you, that's when the impact hits. You don't post about your growth, you live it. You don't ask her to see your value, you walk in it. And if she can't match it, she watches you walk away not out of spite, but because the standard has changed. You no longer belong to a place where you were overlooked. You've outgrown waiting rooms and second chances. You've learned that your peace isn't something to gamble for anyone's approval. You've stopped fighting for space in someone's world and started building your own. Now, she either meets you there or she doesn't, and either way, you win, because this time, you didn't lose her. You found yourself. You spent so long thinking closure would come from her. That one final conversation, that honest explanation, that moment of clarity where everything would finally make sense. But now you see, the truth closure isn't given, it's chosen. And waiting for it from someone who already showed you they didn't value you is just another way of staying stuck. Her silence was your answer. Her inconsistency was your answer. Her distance, her disinterest, her coldness, that was all the closure you needed. You just didn't want to believe it. But now you do. And with that realization, everything changes. You stop replaying what happened. You stop crafting messages in your head that you'll never send. You stop scrolling through her profile trying to decode the meaning behind her posts. Instead, you return to yourself. You shift the focus from what she did to what you've learned. You no longer need revenge or recognition. You don't need her to admit she was wrong. You don't need her to miss you or apologize. What you need is peace. And that begins the moment you decide to stop handing your power to someone who didn't protect it. You walk away not to teach her a lesson, but to give yourself the life you deserve. The man who once chased is now still. The man who once explained is now silent. And in that silence, he's free. Because true power isn't in getting the last word, it's in not needing one. You no longer try to prove anything. You no longer make yourself small to fit into someone else's uncertainty. You let go. And in letting go, you rise not with noise, not with anger, but with quiet strength. She may look back one day and realize what she lost. But by then, you'll already be gone.